"You're not management material. You can't even keep track of basic client work." Lorraine said it during the morning team meeting while I was standing near the supply shelf refilling the stapler tray. Her voice carried across the entire floor. Heads lifted. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. The humiliation landed like a weight in my chest, pressing down until I couldn't pull in a full breath. I had spent 5 months searching for those reports, 5 months retracing every step, checking every shared drive folder, asking everyone if they'd seen anything. 8 different clients, all gone. If you're listening to this, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment and let me know. My name is Eliana. I bite the inside of my cheek when I'm nervous, a habit I picked up in middle school and never shook. I drink my coffee black because I can't afford cream that doesn't spoil before I finish the carton. On Tuesdays, when the laundromat below my studio runs their industrial dryers, my whole apartment smells like fabric softener and hot lint. I had worked at the firm for 3 years. The first year, I answered phones at the front desk and sorted mail into wooden cubbies that smelled like old varnish. When the junior client liaison quit without giving notice, the office manager asked if I wanted to try the role. I said yes, before she finished the sentence. The work was straightforward but relentless. Tracking service requests, following up on quotes, making sure nothing disappeared into the gap between intention and completion. I was good at it. Clients remembered my name. My manager praised my organizational skills during my first-year review. But 5 months ago, something shifted. It started small. One client report went missing from the shared cabinet. I assumed I'd misfiled it and spent an afternoon checking every drawer and binder. When it didn't turn up, I recreated it from notes and backup files. Then a second report vanished 2 weeks later. Then a third. By the 4th missing file, people started whispering during lunch breaks. By the 8th, Lorraine stopped defending me in departmental meetings. Lorraine had worked at the firm for 12 years. She wore tailored blazers in shades of charcoal and navy, the kind with structured shoulders that held their shape even on wire hangers. She lived in a gated community 20 minutes west of downtown with her husband and 2 kids. Her daughter was applying to private high schools that required entrance exams. Her son played travel hockey on a team that practiced in a rink 2 towns over. She drove a sedan that still had that new interior smell, the one that comes from leather seats and factory-fresh upholstery. I lived in a studio above the laundromat on Maple Street. My furniture came from 3 different yard sales. A kitchen table with uneven legs, a bookshelf missing its bottom support, a desk chair that squeaked whenever I leaned back. I walked to work every morning because my sedan died last February, and the repair estimate was more than I had in savings. The mechanic said it wasn't worth fixing. I left it parked on the street until the city towed it. The firm occupied the 2nd and 3rd floors of a converted textile mill. Exposed brick, high ceilings, windows that rattled when delivery trucks passed below. The building had character, which was what people said when they meant old and uninsulated. In winter, the heating vents clanged and hissed, but barely warmed the far corners. In summer, we propped open the fire exit with a broken desk leg to get cross-ventilation. My workspace sat in the shared client services area near the back, 5 desks arranged in a horseshoe. Lorraine's office formed one wall of the horseshoe, with a glass panel that let her see everyone without leaving her seat. She kept her door half open most days, and I learned to recognize the rhythm of her typing, the way she cleared her throat before picking up her phone, the sound of her pen tapping against her notepad when she was thinking. The missing reports became a pattern I couldn't escape. Clients started calling to ask about delayed updates. Then they stopped calling and started emailing Lorraine directly. Then they stopped emailing and just went quiet. One client switched to a competitor after 16 months of steady work with us. Another threatened to file a complaint with the Regional Trade Association. Each time, Lorraine asked me what happened. Each time, I explained that the file had vanished. Each time, her expression shifted a little further toward doubt. "Maybe you're overwhelmed," she said one afternoon in late June. I was restocking printer paper in the supply closet, and she stood in the narrow opening, her shoulder resting against the frame. "Have you thought about whether this role is still a good fit?" I thought about it constantly. I thought about it when my coworker Jenna started handling accounts I used to manage. I thought about it when the office manager pulled me aside to ask if I needed help with time management. I thought about it every morning when I walked past Lorraine's office and saw her reviewing departmental performance metrics on her monitor. The firm's annual review was scheduled for the third Monday in September. Every department head presented their team's performance to the executive director and the senior partners. Lorraine had been preparing her presentation for weeks. I heard her rehearsing through the half-open door, talking points about efficiency improvements, client retention strategies, team restructuring plans. She practiced the same phrases over and over until they sounded smooth and natural. I started keeping a notebook in my desk drawer. I wrote down every missing file, the date it disappeared, the client name, the last time I remembered seeing it. I made copies of my work logs and saved them to a personal drive. I didn't know what I was preparing for, but I knew I needed a record. The shared kitchenette sat at the far end of the floor, past the copy machines and the storage closets. It had a microwave that sparked when you used it for more than 2 minutes, a refrigerator covered in safety reminders and birthday cards, and a cabinet we used for overflow supplies. The cabinet had 4 drawers. The top 2 held napkins, plastic utensils, and stacks of paper plates left over from the summer picnic. The third drawer held extension cords and spare charging cables. The bottom drawer stuck when you tried to open it, the handle catching on something inside the track. I usually avoided that cabinet, but on a Tuesday evening, in early September, I stayed late to organize the storage area. The office manager had asked someone to clear out old binders and tangled cables before the annual review, and I volunteered because I had nowhere else to be. The laundromat closed at 8. If I went home before then, I'd just sit in my apartment listening to the rhythm of the dryers through the floor. I worked my way through the top drawers first, threw out expired flyers, untangled cables, and wound them into neat loops, stacked binders by year. When I got to the bottom drawer, I pulled the handle. It didn't budge. I yanked harder. The drawer jerked open 6 inches, then stopped. I crouched down and reached into the gap, trying to feel for whatever was blocking the track. My fingers brushed something smooth and cool. Metal. I shifted my grip and pulled again. The drawer lurched open another few inches. I angled my phone's flashlight into the gap. 8 folders. Manila. Labeled with client names and dates. Arranged in chronological order from April to August. Everything I had been blamed for losing. My hands went numb. I pulled the drawer open the rest of the way and lifted the first folder. The label was in my handwriting. Inside were the client requests I'd spent a week tracking down, the notes I'd compiled, the follow-up questions I'd prepared. The second folder was the same. The third, all of them carefully stacked, deliberately hidden, where no one would think to look. I sat back on the floor. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed faintly. Somewhere on the floor below, someone was running water. My throat felt tight. I took my phone out and photographed each folder, the labels, the contents, the drawer itself with all 8 folders visible. My hands shook so badly the first few photos came out blurred. I steadied my wrist against the cabinet frame and took them again. Then I closed the drawer, stood up, walked to the kitchenette and washed my hands under cold water even though they weren't dirty. Dried them on my jeans because the paper towel dispenser was empty. I didn't go home. I sat in the break area with my laptop and opened every photograph. I zoomed in on the labels to confirm the dates. I cross-referenced them with my notebook. 3 of the 8 clients had submitted formal requests for updates that never arrived. 2 had filed complaints about lack of response. 1 had specifically mentioned switching to a competitor in their final message. Lorraine had hidden these files for 5 months. 5 months while I tore apart my workspace looking for them. 5 months while my reputation unraveled in departmental meetings and client calls. 5 months while she stood in front of everyone and suggested maybe I wasn't cut out for this work. The anger came slowly, then all at once. Not the hot, loud kind, the cold kind that sits in your chest and calculates. I opened a new message and started typing. The subject line took me 20 minutes to write. I kept it neutral, professional, found files, review, preparation. The body of the email was shorter than I expected. 3 sentences. I was organizing storage and found these client reports from earlier this year. I wanted to make sure you had them before Monday's review, since some clients mentioned follow-up issues. Let me know if you need anything else prepared. I attached all 8 photographs. Then I hovered my cursor over the send button for a full minute. My finger felt heavy. If I sent this, there would be no taking it back. If I didn't send it, nothing would change. Lorraine would present her metrics on Monday. She would talk about team restructuring. My name would come up as a performance issue. Maybe I'd be reassigned. Maybe I'd be let go quietly in the next round of budget reviews. I added the department director to the CC line. His name was Malcolm, and he had been with the firm for 18 years. He signed off on all hiring decisions and annual raises. He attended every review meeting. If Lorraine was going to present her version of the story on Monday, he needed to see this first. I sent the email at 6:47 p.m. on Thursday evening. Then I closed my laptop, packed my things, and walked home in the dark. The sidewalk smelled like fried chicken from the corner restaurant. A dog barked from someone's fenced yard. My legs felt unsteady, like I'd been standing too long. Friday morning, I arrived at my usual time, 7:53. The building was quiet. The coffee machine in the break room was still warming up, making that low gurgling sound it always made. I logged into my computer and opened my inbox. No response to the email. I checked twice to make sure it had sent. It had. At 8:45, the elevator doors opened, and Lorraine stepped out. Her face looked drawn. She walked past my desk without glancing in my direction, straight into her office. She closed the door. At 9:15, Malcolm called her. I heard his voice through the intercom on her desk phone. "Can you come up for a minute?" His tone was flat, professional, the kind of voice that didn't ask questions. Lorraine grabbed a notepad and a pen. Her hands moved quickly, but her fingers fumbled with the doorknob. She walked to the elevator and pressed the button 3 times in a row, even though the light was already on. The elevator took her to the 3rd floor. Malcolm's office was at the far end, near the corner window that overlooked the loading docks. His door stayed closed for 40 minutes. I kept glancing at the clock on my monitor. 9:16, 9:23, 9:38. Jenna came in and asked if I wanted to grab lunch later. I said sure, even though I wasn't hungry. At 9:56, the elevator opened and Lorraine stepped out. Her blazer was buttoned wrong, the left side higher than the right. Her hair looked smooth, too smooth, like she'd been running her hands through it and then tried to fix it. She walked back to her office and shut the door again. The blinds stayed closed. At 10:30, she came to my desk. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" I nodded and stood up. We walked to the small meeting room near the copy machines. It had a round table and 4 chairs and a whiteboard that still had old notes from someone's brainstorming session. I sat down. She stayed standing. "Why did you copy him?" she asked. "I thought he should know before the review," I said. "Since you're presenting Monday, you could have just told me privately." I looked at her directly. "Like you told everyone privately that I lost those reports?" Her mouth opened. No sound came out. She sat down heavily in the chair across from me. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. "What did he say?" I asked. She stared at the whiteboard behind me. "He wants to know why I had them, why clients complained and I never mentioned it, why I let you take the blame." "What did you tell him?" I said I forgot they were there. Her voice cracked on the last word. "He didn't believe me." "Are you going to tell him the truth?" "What truth?" She looked at me now, her eyes red at the edges. "That I accidentally put them in the wrong drawer? That's what happened. It was a mistake. For 5 months?" She didn't answer. "What happens now?" I asked. She exhaled slowly, like she was trying to steady herself. "He's postponing the review. He wants to meet with me again on Monday. He's pulling my performance files from the last 2 years." I nodded. Neither of us said anything for a long moment. Outside the room, someone started the copy machine. The rhythmic hum filled the silence. "I have to get back to work," I said. She didn't stop me. The weekend crawled by. I cleaned my apartment, walked to the grocery store, sat on my bed and stared at my phone, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. Saturday night, I ate microwaved soup and watched the lights from the laundromat flicker through my window. Sunday, I reorganized my bookshelf and tried to read, but couldn't focus on the words. Monday morning felt different. The office was quieter than usual. Lorraine didn't come in until 9:30, an hour later than normal. She went straight to Malcolm's office without stopping at her desk. The door closed. This time it stayed closed for over an hour. When she came out, her face was pale. She didn't look at anyone. She walked to her office, grabbed her purse and her jacket, and left. The elevator doors closed behind her. Jenna leaned over from her desk. "What's going on?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said, but I did know. I just didn't know how much. Monday afternoon, Malcolm sent an email to the entire department. The review meeting was canceled. He would reschedule it later in the month. No other explanation. People started speculating in the break room, but I stayed at my desk and kept working. Tuesday morning, Lorraine came back. She walked straight to my desk before she even took off her coat. "Please," she said, "can we talk again?" We went back to the meeting room. She sat down immediately this time, her hands folded on the table in front of her. Her nails were painted pale pink, but the polish was chipped on 2 fingers. "Tell him it was a misunderstanding," she said. "Tell him you put them in my drawer by mistake." "Why would I do that?" "Because I'll lose everything." Her voice rose slightly, then dropped again. "He's recommending a formal investigation. They're reviewing all my past performance reports, all my client files, everything." I didn't say anything. "I have a son in private school," she continued. "We just bought a second car. My husband will." She stopped. Her jaw tightened. "Please, what do you want?" I thought about those 8 folders. I thought about 5 months of meetings where I sat in silence while people questioned my competence. I thought about the clients who stopped returning my calls because they thought I'd lost their work. I thought about the morning she stood in front of everyone and said I wasn't management material. "I want you to tell them the truth," I said. She stared at me. "If I do that, they'll fire me." "Maybe they should." Her face crumpled. She started crying, real crying, the kind that shakes your shoulders and makes your breath come in gasps. I'd never seen her cry before. I'd never seen her look anything but composed. I stood up. "I have to get back to work." She didn't follow me. That afternoon, Lorraine submitted her resignation. The office manager sent an email to the department at 3:47 p.m., effective immediately, pursuing other opportunities. "We wish her well." The standard language that meant nothing and everything. People whispered about it for the rest of the week. Jenna asked me if I knew why she left so suddenly. I said I didn't. Another coworker speculated that she got a better offer somewhere else. Someone else said they heard it was personal reasons. No one seemed to know the real story, except me and Malcolm and Lorraine. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought I could go back to my work and rebuild my reputation slowly, one client interaction at a time. But 3 days after Lorraine resigned, a man showed up at the reception desk asking for her. The receptionist explained that she no longer worked here. He asked when she left. The receptionist told him to speak to the office manager. Instead, he walked into the client services area. He was tall, with graying hair and a wedding ring on his left hand. He looked around until his eyes landed on Lorraine's old office. "Which one of you worked with her?" he asked. Jenna raised her hand slightly. "We all did." He walked closer. "Did she work late a lot?" No one answered. "She told me she was working late," he said. His voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath it. 3-4 nights a week, sometimes Saturdays. Said she had a big project, had to put in extra hours. He paused. "But I just talked to your office manager. She said Lorraine's keycard log shows she left every night by 5:30 for the last 6 months. Jenna glanced at me. I kept my eyes on my monitor. "So where was she?" he asked. No one said anything. The man stood there for another few seconds, then turned and walked back to the elevator. After he left, Jenna exhaled loudly. "That was her husband," she whispered. I nodded. "Do you think she was?" "I don't know," I said, but I wondered. I wondered where Lorraine went all those evenings when she told her husband she was working late. I wondered what she was hiding that was big enough to make her sabotage my career to keep people from asking questions. I wondered if the missing reports were just the visible part of something larger. I never found out, and I realized I didn't need to. Whatever Lorraine had been protecting, it was unraveling now. Not because I exposed it, because she'd built her life on a structure that couldn't hold. The firm operated differently after Lorraine left. Malcolm reassigned her accounts temporarily to Jenna and another senior liaison. He asked me to help coordinate the transition, which meant I spent 2 weeks reviewing every file Lorraine had managed, looking for gaps or inconsistencies. I found 7 client contracts that were about to expire without renewal notices sent. I found 12 outstanding invoices that hadn't been followed up on. I found a spreadsheet where she'd marked 3 client complaints as resolved, even though no resolution notes existed in the files. I documented everything and sent it to Malcolm in a summary report. He thanked me in person, which he almost never did. He stood at my desk with his hands in his pockets and said, "You have good instincts. We should have listened to you sooner." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. 4 weeks after Lorraine resigned, Malcolm called me into his office. The last time I'd been up there was during my annual review 2 years ago. His office had the same brick walls as the rest of the building, but his window faced the street instead of the loading docks. You could see the coffee shop across the way, the one with the chalkboard sign, and the line of people waiting on the sidewalk. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I sat. He opened a folder and slid a single sheet of paper across to me. "We're restructuring the client services team. I'd like to offer you the team lead position." I stared at the paper. It was a formal offer letter, with a salary number that was 30% higher than what I currently made. "It comes with a raise and a discretionary bonus structure," Malcolm continued. "You'd oversee client relations, manage the team, and report directly to me. You'd also get an office." "Lorraine's office?" I asked. "Yes." I looked at the number again. It was enough to fix my car, enough to move out of the studio above the laundromat, enough to stop calculating every grocery purchase, down to the penny. "Can I think about it?" I asked. Malcolm leaned back in his chair. "You've been doing the work already. This just makes it official. But yes, take a day or two if you need to." I took the offer letter home with me. I sat at my uneven kitchen table and read it 3 times. I thought about Lorraine, about where she was now, about whether she'd found another job, or whether she was sitting in her gated community house trying to explain to her husband why she'd resigned so suddenly. I thought about her son's hockey practices, and her daughter's private school applications, and the new car they'd just bought. I thought about the 8 folders hidden in the bottom drawer. I signed the offer letter that night and returned it the next morning. Malcolm announced the promotion in a departmental meeting on Friday. There was polite applause. Jenna hugged me afterward and said she was happy for me. A few other coworkers congratulated me quietly. No one asked why the position had opened up. Everyone already knew. I moved into Lorraine's office the following Monday. The cleaning crew had emptied it completely. No photos, no personal items, no trace that she'd worked there for 12 years. Just a desk, a chair, a filing cabinet, and that glass panel that looked out over the client services area. I brought my notebooks and my pens and the small desk plant I'd kept alive for 2 years despite the poor lighting. I arranged everything carefully. Then I sat down in the chair and looked through the glass at the 5 desks arranged in a horseshoe. It felt strange, not triumphant, not victorious, just strange and quiet and permanent. The first week in the new role, I focused on rebuilding client relationships. I called the 3 clients who had complained about missing reports and apologized for the delays. I explained that we'd had a transition in management and that I was personally overseeing their accounts now. 2 of them were skeptical but willing to give us another chance. The third one agreed to a probationary period. It was more than I expected. I implemented a new tracking system for all client requests. Every file got logged into a shared database with timestamps and status updates. Every team member had access. No more hidden drawers. No more files disappearing into someone's office. Jenna adapted quickly. The other team members took longer, but they came around. By the end of the 2nd month, we'd recovered 4 of the clients who'd left during Lorraine's tenure. By the end of the 3rd month, our client satisfaction scores were the highest they'd been in 18 months. Malcolm mentioned it during a senior leadership meeting. Word got back to me through the office manager, who smiled when she told me, "You're doing good work," she said. I was, but it felt less like success and more like repair, like I was fixing something that should never have been broken in the first place. 6 months after I took the position, I was restocking supplies in the shared kitchenette. It was late afternoon, and most people had already left for the day. I opened the bottom drawer of the cabinet, the one that used to stick. The maintenance crew had fixed the track a few weeks after Lorraine left. It slid open smoothly now. The drawer was empty except for a stack of napkins and a box of plastic forks. I stared at it for a long moment. I thought about the 8 folders. I thought about the night I found them, the weight of them in my hands, the way my whole body went cold when I realized what they meant. I thought about the email I sent. 3 sentences, 8 photographs, 1 decision. I thought about Lorraine's face when she asked me to lie for her, the desperation in her voice, the way she said, "please," like it was the only word she had left. I closed the drawer. Sometimes people ask me how I ended up in this position, how I went from the junior liaison who couldn't keep track of files to the team lead who turned the department around. They ask it casually, like they're making conversation, but there's always curiosity underneath. I tell them the same thing every time. I made sure the right people saw the right information at the right time. They usually nod and say something about being in the right place at the right moment, about luck, about timing. I don't correct them, because the truth is more complicated. The truth is, I could have confronted Lorraine privately. I could have asked her why she hid those files. I could have given her a chance to fix it before anyone else knew. But I didn't. I chose the nuclear option. I copied Malcolm. I made sure there was no way for her to explain it away quietly. I tell myself it was about justice, about holding someone accountable who had power over me and used it to destroy my reputation, about making sure she couldn't do the same thing to someone else. But late at night, when I can't sleep and the laundromat is finally quiet below me, I moved out 4 months ago, but the silence still feels strange. I wonder if it was really about justice, or if it was about power, about taking something from someone who thought they were untouchable. I don't know if that makes me calculating or just human. Maybe there's no difference. What I do know is this. Lorraine made a choice when she hid those folders. She chose her career over mine. She chose her reputation over the truth. She chose to let me drown while she stood on the shore and watched. And when I found those folders, I made a choice too. I chose to let the system do what it was supposed to do. I chose transparency over silence. I chose accountability over mercy. She lost her job. She lost her reputation. She lost whatever she was hiding from her husband, whatever those late nights were really about. Her life unraveled in a matter of days. And I was the thread that pulled first. I think about that sometimes, whether I pulled too hard, whether there was another way, whether the outcome would have been different if I'd chosen differently. But then I remember sitting in that team meeting while she told everyone I wasn't management material. I remember the clients who stopped trusting me. I remember 5 months of questioning myself, wondering if maybe she was right, if maybe I really couldn't handle the work. And I stopped wondering. I still work at the firm. I still sit in the office that used to be hers. I still see her name sometimes in old files or archived emails, and every time, I feel the same quiet certainty I felt the night I sent that message. She built a trap for me. I just made sure she was standing in it when it closed. I don't call it revenge. I call it documentation. I call it transparency. I call it making sure the person responsible was held responsible. But the outcome was the same. She's gone. I'm here. And every time someone praises my leadership, or my organizational skills, or my attention to detail, I think about 8 folders in a stuck drawer and a single email that changed everything. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like, drop a comment, or subscribe so others can hear it too. I stared at the neat stacks of bills in Cordelia's hands. The wall safe behind her desk hung open, empty. 4 in the morning shouldn't reveal company secrets like this. Nikita. My name left her lips as a whisper, then hardened. You're not supposed to be here. I wasn't. The quarterly presentation needed finishing, and I'd returned after dinner to complete it. Now, at this ungodly hour, I stood frozen in her office doorway. Cordelia didn't panic. That's what terrified me. She simply continued counting, manicured nails, flipping through $100 bills with practiced ease. Close the door. I did. Lock it. I did that too. Her eyes never left the money. Sit. The guest chair felt like a witness stand. Cordelia finally looked up, her expression eerily calm. 8 years at this company, correct? That tiny apartment by the train tracks? Your mother's medical bills? My throat tightened. How did she know about Mom? I notice things, Nikita. Who stays late? Who needs what? She squared the money into a neat pile. Everyone has problems. Everyone needs solutions. I don't. Tomorrow, a new client account appears in the system. You'll be assigned to it. Double your current salary. Her smile never reached her eyes. All you need to remember is you came in early today, not late, and my office door was locked. You never saw me. But the cameras have been on a loop since midnight. Nothing exists. She tucked the money into her designer bag. Do we understand each other? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from HR. Congratulations on your promotion to senior analyst. Effective immediately. Cordelia's smile widened. See? Problems. Solutions. The next morning, I sat at my desk staring at the quarterly financials that had appeared in everyone's inbox. Something caught my eye. $250,000, listed under operational expenses. I flipped back through previous reports. This category hadn't existed before, My promotion suddenly made terrible sense. Nikita, Cordelia appeared wearing a blazer that probably cost more than my rent. Team meeting in 10 to discuss your new client. 12 coworkers gathered, all looking at me with barely concealed envy or confusion. For 3 years, I'd watched promotion after promotion pass me by, despite my performance metrics leading the department. Now, overnight, I'd leapfrogged half the team. As you know, Cordelia announced, we've secured the Winter Garden account. Nikita will be taking point. Winter Garden? I'd never heard of them. Quarterly budget is $250,000, she continued. Nikita has demonstrated exceptional loyalty to our team goals. The word loyalty hung in the air like a threat. If you're still with me, this story only gets more intense. Hit like and subscribe if you want to know how deep this corporate betrayal goes. Comment what you would have done in Nikita's position. My name is Nikita Bloom, 29, accounting degree, and until yesterday, a mid-level financial analyst at Pascal Investments. Nothing special, nothing remarkable. Just a woman trying to pay off student loans and keep her mother's cancer treatments covered. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment where the pipes groan and the neighbors argue. My social life consists of monthly drinks with college friends who keep getting promoted while I stay stuck. I'm the reliable one, the one who double-checks everyone's math, the one who never causes trouble. Until now. That night, I couldn't sleep. The weight of what I'd witnessed crushed my chest. By agreeing to silence, I'd become an accomplice. By morning, I'd made my decision. I arrived early, before most of the team. The office felt different now, less like a workplace and more like a crime scene. I pulled up the Winter Garden client file, empty except for the budget allocation. Admiring your new opportunity? I jumped. Cordelia stood behind me, coffee in hand. Just getting familiar with it, I said, closing the screen. Smart. We should discuss strategy over lunch. Not a request. At the restaurant, expensive, private, Cordelia ordered wine I couldn't afford and spoke about everything except Winter Garden. She asked about my mother's treatment, my apartment lease, my student debt. Each question felt like she was taking inventory of my vulnerabilities. You know, she said, swirling her wine, I started where you are, underpaid, undervalued, but I learned to recognize opportunities. Like Winter Garden? Her eyes narrowed slightly. Exactly like Winter Garden. Do you know why I selected you, Nikita? My performance metrics. She laughed. Performance means nothing. Loyalty means everything. I watched you turn down that headhunter last month. You stayed despite better offers elsewhere. That's rare. How did she know about that call? I'd taken it in the stairwell. I need people who understand discretion, she continued. People who recognize that rules are flexible when necessary. Back at the office, I noticed something else. Jameson, who'd questioned budget discrepancies last quarter, had been transferred to our Pittsburgh office. Lena, who'd reported an accounting irregularity, had been let go during restructuring. That evening, I stayed late, waited until the cleaning crew finished. Then, I did something I'd never done. I accessed our financial archives using Cordelia's computer. Her password was still saved in the system. What I found turned my blood cold. 18 months of phantom operational expenses, different client names, same patterns, nearly $2 million. A noise startled me. I quickly closed everything, heart hammering against my ribs. No one there, just the building settling. I copied key numbers, dates, and account codes into my notebook. Not digital, nothing that could be tracked. Then I left, feeling the weight of every security camera following me. The next morning, Cordelia wasn't at the office. I spent the day in a fog of anxiety, jumping whenever my phone rang. At 4:30, a message, my office. Now, she sat behind her desk, expression unreadable. Close the door. This felt horribly familiar. I received an alert, she said, voice perfectly calm. Someone accessed restricted financial records using my credentials last night. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. Strangely, the system logs don't show who. She studied me. But security footage shows you were the last to leave. I forced myself to breathe normally. I finished the Winter Garden proposal. It's on your desk. There is no Winter Garden proposal, Nikita. There is no Winter Garden. The silence stretched between us. I'm restructuring the department, she finally said. Your position is being eliminated. 2 weeks' notice. Her smile returned, cold as January. Unless you'd prefer to resign today, with a recommendation. In that moment, I understood completely. This wasn't just about money. This was power. She enjoyed this, creating hope, then crushing it, giving, then taking away. I'll work my notice, I said. Brave choice. She checked her watch. Clear your desk by end of day. Your system access is already restricted. As I packed my things, coworkers avoided eye contact. Yesterday's golden child, today's cautionary tale. That night, I spread my notes across my kitchen table. The pattern was clear, but I needed more. If I was going down, I was taking her with me. For the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect terminated employee. Cordial, helpful with transition, never alone with Cordelia. Meanwhile, I traced every dollar through the accounting system. The money moved through several shell companies before disappearing, each transfer carefully disguised as legitimate business expenses. But where did it go? On day 12, I discovered the answer. An address on a vendor payment form caught my eye. Not a business district, but industrial land outside town. Property tax records showed it had been purchased through a holding company Cordelia created. I had one chance, 2 days left, before my access disappeared forever. I called in sick on day 13. Instead, I drove to the address, an abandoned warehouse surrounded by chain link fence. The building looked empty, but 3 expensive cars sat in the back lot, including Cordelia's midnight blue luxury sedan. I parked a block away and walked, pretending to be lost when a security camera swiveled toward me. Through dirty windows, I glimpsed movement inside, people in protective gear, tables with equipment, and products being packaged into small containers. This wasn't just embezzlement, this was manufacturing. Illegal pharmaceuticals, judging by the setup. A hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around, heart stopping. You looking for something? A man in a security uniform glared down at me. I'm so sorry, I stammered. My GPS sent me here for a job interview. I think I have the wrong address. His eyes narrowed. What company? Winter Garden? Maybe I wrote it down wrong. At the name, his posture changed subtly. No interviews today. You should leave. I nodded, walking quickly back to my car, feeling his eyes on me the entire way. That night, my apartment door showed signs of tampering. Nothing inside was missing, but everything felt slightly shifted. They knew. They'd been here. On my final day, Cordelia called me to her office one last time. I wanted to personally thank you for your service, she said, handing me my final paycheck, and remind you of the confidentiality agreement you signed when hired. I took the envelope. Of course. Good, because people who forget, she leaned forward. Well, they tend to regret it, deeply and permanently. Her eyes held mine, and in them, I saw something worse than greed. I saw someone who believed herself untouchable. As I turned to leave, she added, "Give my regards to your mother. Terminal illness is so difficult. Hospitals can be such dangerous places, don't you think?" The threat against my mother wasn't subtle. My hands shook as I cleaned out my desk, avoiding eye contact with former colleagues who suddenly found reasons to be elsewhere. The company badge I'd worn proudly for 3 years went into the security box with a dull clank. I spent that night pacing my apartment, jumping at every sound. The hospital where Mom received treatment suddenly seemed exposed, vulnerable. I called to check on her twice, making excuses about forgetting what time her next appointment was scheduled. "Nikita, honey," Mom said during my second call. "What's really going on? You sound strange." "Just work stress," I lied. "How are you feeling?" "Better than you, sounds like." "Don't worry about me. I've got Nurse Patty keeping an eye on me. Sweet woman brings me extra pudding cups." That small kindness from a stranger broke something in me. Tears streamed down my face as I realized how many lives Cordelia had damaged while everyone looked away. The single mother from accounting who'd been fired last month and lost her health insurance for her asthmatic child. The older man from compliance who'd had to postpone retirement after being pushed out, and how many others had suffered from whatever was being produced in that warehouse. I wiped my tears and made a decision. Fear wouldn't protect me or Mom, only action would. The next morning, I withdrew my emergency savings, $3,200 that had taken years to accumulate, and rented a small storage unit across town, paying cash. There, I created a physical record of everything I'd discovered. Timeline, money trail, photos of the warehouse I'd managed to snap before being confronted, names of everyone who'd been pushed out after asking questions. I couldn't trust digital records. Cordelia had proven she could access anything connected to the internet. Paper couldn't be hacked. That afternoon, I visited Mom at the hospital, bringing her favorite lemon tarts. "I got a new job," I told her, manufacturing enthusiasm. "Different company, better pay." "That's wonderful." Her smile lit up her pale face. "Where?" I gave her the name of a competitor across town. It's all happening fast. I start Monday. You deserve it. Always working so hard while others take credit. If only she knew how right she was. As I left the hospital, a sleek car pulled alongside me in the parking lot. The passenger window lowered. Cordelia. How touching, she said. Mother-daughter time. Precious at this stage, isn't it? My body went rigid. What do you want? Just checking in. Concerned about your transition. Finding new employment can be challenging without references. Her smile glittered like broken glass, especially when potential employers hear certain things. Are you following me? Don't flatter yourself. I have a dermatology appointment. She gestured toward the medical complex adjacent to the hospital. Curious coincidence, though. Nothing about this woman operated on coincidence. Good luck with your job search, she said as the window closed. And do be careful crossing streets. Accidents happen so easily. The car pulled away, leaving me shaking with rage and fear. I made 3 decisions that day. First, I moved Mom to a different hospital under a friend's recommendation, telling her it had better specialists for her condition. Second, I stopped using my phone and bought a prepaid one with cash. Third, I found a temporary job waiting tables, where Cordelia and her circle would never set foot. For 2 weeks, I lived small, waited tables, visited Mom, added to my evidence collection. Each night, I struggled with what to do. Going to the police seemed obvious, but Cordelia had connections everywhere. Without proof beyond my notes, I'd be dismissed, or worse. Then I met Thalia. She came into the diner at closing time, ordered coffee, and tipped generously. The next night, same thing. By the third night, we were talking. Nobody takes this job if they have options, she said, stirring her coffee endlessly. What's your story? Something about her steady gaze made me want to trust her. Corporate fallout. I saw something I shouldn't have. She nodded. Been there. That's why I became a journalist. My pulse quickened. What kind of journalist? Investigative. Currently freelancing after my newspaper downsized. She slid a card across the table. If your something is newsworthy, I'm all ears. I pocketed the card, not committing. The next day, I researched Thalia online. Her credentials checked out. Award-winning articles on corruption, several involving companies like mine. But was it a trap? Had Cordelia somehow engineered this too? I watched the diner for 3 nights before my shift, looking for signs that Thalia was meeting anyone suspicious. Nothing. She came alone, worked on her laptop, left alone. On the 4th night, I brought my notebook to work. Hypothetically, I said, sliding into her booth after my shift, what would someone need to expose corporate theft and illegal manufacturing? Her eyes lit up. Hypothetically? Evidence, witnesses, paper trails, and someone crazy enough to publish it despite potential blowback. And if the person involved had connections to law enforcement, then you'd need ironclad proof before approaching anyone, and someone watching your back. She closed her laptop. Is this hypothetical conversation becoming real? I slid my notebook across the table. Maybe. Over the next week, Thalia and I met regularly at different locations, never the same place twice. She helped organize my evidence, asked questions I hadn't considered, suggested additional documentation we needed. This is bigger than I thought, she said one night, reviewing everything spread across her kitchen table. $2 million missing is one thing, but pharmaceutical manufacturing? That's federal territory. So we go to the FBI? Not yet. We need the final connection, proof that links Cordelia directly to the warehouse operation. Right now, it's all circumstantial. We developed a plan. Thalia would observe the warehouse, documenting patterns of activity. I would approach former colleagues who'd been terminated, seeking additional witnesses. The first person I contacted was Lena, the accountant who'd reported irregularities before being fired. I can't talk about this, she said when I brought up Cordelia. We sat in a park, 3 towns over, her children playing nearby. I signed an NDA. What if she's hurting people? I asked. Not just firing them, but worse? Lena looked at her playing children. I have too much to lose. We all do, that's why she wins. Her eyes darted to mine. 2 weeks before I was fired, I found duplicate vendor payments. When I flagged them, Cordelia said she'd handle it personally. The next day, the records were gone, like they never existed. Would you be willing to make a statement about that? Only with ironclad protection. She gripped my arm. You don't understand. After I was fired, someone broke into my house. Nothing was taken, but my children's school photos were rearranged on the mantle. A warning. My stomach twisted. I understand better than you know. Over the next week, I spoke with 4 more former employees. Each had similar stories, questions raised, subtle threats, jobs lost. 2 agreed to make statements if others would join them. Meanwhile, Thalia documented regular deliveries to the warehouse, large chemical shipments arriving under cover of darkness, workers who never seemed to leave, distribution vans with changing license plates. We're getting close, Thalia said during our daily check-in, but we need someone inside, current information that can't be dismissed. As disgruntled ex-employee testimony, that night, I received a text from an unknown number. This is Preston from accounting. Heard you're asking questions. I have answers. Meet tomorrow, Lakeside Park, 2 p.m. Preston had started at Pascal after I'd left. I'd never met him, but he had access to current financial records. Exactly what we needed. It could be a trap, Thalia warned when I called her. Or our missing piece, I countered. I'll be careful. The park was busy with afternoon joggers and mothers pushing strollers. I chose a bench with clear sightlines in all directions, noting exit routes. At 2:05, a man in his early 30s approached, looking nervous. Nikita? He asked. I nodded. I don't have much time, Preston said, sitting beside me but watching the path. Things are worse than you think. The money, it's not just 2 million. It's closer to 5. And it's not just Cordelia. There are others involved. Higher-ups. My pulse raced. Do you have proof? He patted his messenger bag. Everything's here. Account numbers, transfer records, names. His hands trembled. I can't go back there. They're watching everyone since you started asking around. Who told you I was asking questions? Imani from HR. She said. His eyes widened, focusing on something behind me. We need to go. Now. I turned to see 2 men in dark suits walking purposefully toward us. Preston bolted, running toward the park exit. I moved in the opposite direction, toward a crowded playground. The men split up, one following Preston, one coming after me. I weaved through playground equipment, past startled parents, toward the parking lot. My car was 3 rows back. A hand grabbed my jacket. I spun free, elbowing backward, connecting with something solid. A grunt of pain. I ran harder. Reaching my car, I fumbled with keys, heart hammering. The engine started as the man reached my window. I reversed sharply, forcing him to jump back, then sped away. At the park exit, I saw Preston being forced into a black SUV, his messenger bag confiscated, our evidence, our witness, gone. I drove aimlessly for hours, changing direction randomly, checking constantly for tails. When I finally felt safe, I called Thalia. They knew, I said, voice shaking. They took Preston, all our new evidence. Where are you? Come to my place. We need to regroup. No. They might follow me to you. I'll go somewhere else tonight. I swallowed hard. What do we do now? We have enough to approach authorities, she said. Not as much as I'd like, but enough to trigger an investigation. What about Preston? One problem at a time. Go somewhere safe. I'll make some calls. I checked into a motel using cash and a fake name, then collapsed on the bed, adrenaline finally crashing. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. We know what you're doing. Last warning. Walk away or people get hurt. Starting with Nurse Patty, who brings your mother extra pudding. Ice spread through my veins. They knew about Mom's nurse. They'd been listening somehow. Before I could process this, another text arrived with an image attachment. I opened it, then dropped the phone like it burned me. A photo of my mother, asleep in her hospital bed, taken hours ago, based on the clock visible on her nightstand. The message below it, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Come alone to the address below. Bring everything you've collected. Or, next time, she won't wake up. I stared at the phone, my entire body trembling. They'd been inside Mom's hospital room, her new room at the different hospital. They'd gotten past security, nurses, everything. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Nowhere was safe. I called Mom's hospital, hands shaking so badly I misdialed twice. Can you check on Patricia Bloom in room 312? I'm her daughter. One moment. The seconds stretched like hours. The nurse just checked on her. She's sleeping comfortably. Is there a nurse named Patty on that floor? Yes, Nurse Patricia is on duty tonight. Can you ask someone to stay in my mother's room until I get there? It's an emergency. 20 minutes later, I rushed through hospital corridors, security badge clutched in my hand. Mom was still sleeping, but now a nursing assistant sat in the corner, reading a magazine. Family emergency. I explained when she raised an eyebrow at me. I just need to sit with her. The woman nodded and left. I collapsed into the chair beside Mom's bed, watching her chest rise and fall. The gentle beep of monitors provided a strange comfort. She was alive, safe for now. I texted Thalia. They threatened my mother, sending photo of her sleeping, demanding meeting tomorrow with all evidence. Her response came instantly. Don't go alone. Trep, call police. They mentioned her nurse by name. They're inside the hospital. Police won't arrive in time if they decide to hurt her. My phone rang. Thalia calling. I stepped into the hallway to answer. Listen to me, she said, her voice tense. This is escalating faster than I expected. These aren't just corporate embezzlers anymore. These are dangerous people. I know that, I hissed. They're in my mother's hospital room. You can't give them what they want. Once they have everything, they have no reason to keep either of you alive. The truth of her words hit me like cold water. Then what do I do? We need leverage. Something they want more than your evidence. Like what? I'm not sure yet, but I have contacts. People who can help. Let me make some calls. She paused. Can you move your mother? I glanced back at Mom's sleeping form. Not without raising questions. She's mid-treatment. Then stay with her. Don't leave her alone for a second. I'll call you back in an hour. I hung up and returned to Mom's bedside, mind racing. What leverage could possibly protect us against people willing to threaten a cancer patient? At 2 a.m., Mom stirred. Nikita? What are you doing here so late? I forced a smile. Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check on you. She studied my face. Even weak from chemo, nothing escaped her. You're lying. What's wrong? Nothing's. Don't. Her voice was soft but firm. I've been sick, not stupid. Something's been wrong for weeks. Tell me. So I did. Not everything, not the warehouse or the drugs, but enough. The money, Cordelia, the threats. Mom listened silently, her thin fingers gripping mine with surprising strength. When I finished, she didn't look afraid. She looked angry. These people think they can threaten my daughter? In my room? She shook her head. Bloom women don't scare so easily. Mom, this isn't one of your detective novels. These people are dangerous. So am I when someone threatens my family. She straightened in bed. Now, what's your plan? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Thalia, I found something, she said without preamble. 2 things, actually. First, Preston is alive. My police contact spotted him being escorted into Pascal's building an hour ago. That's good news? Maybe. He could be cooperating, or they could be forcing him to reveal what he told you. She took a breath. Second, I identified one of the men who chased you. Former detective, now private security. Works for an agency with connections to the mayor's office. The mayor? What does that have to do with Cordelia? I'm not sure yet, but it means this goes higher than we thought. Corporate embezzlement rarely involves this level of muscle, unless it's protecting something bigger, like a drug manufacturing operation. Exactly. I need a few more hours to connect the dots. Can you stall tomorrow's meeting? I checked the time, 2:30 a.m. How? Text them. Say you need until noon to gather everything. Buy us time. After hanging up, I sent the text. The response came immediately. 10:30. Final offer. Bring everything. Or consequences start with nurse. Patty? I showed Mom. Her eyes hardened. They're watching the hospital. We need to get Patty out of here. How? We can't warn her without explaining everything. Mom thought for a moment. Call the nurses' station. Ask them to send Patty home because she seems tired. Say I mentioned she was coughing, and you're concerned about infection. It worked. The floor supervisor agreed to send Patty home and replace her. One small victory. At 7 a.m., Mom's oncologist arrived for rounds. I pulled him aside outside her room. My mother needs security, I said quietly. Someone's made threats against her. He frowned. What kind of threats? It's complicated. A workplace issue that escalated. Can we get a security guard? He nodded. I'll arrange it immediately. We take patient safety very seriously. By 8 a.m., a uniformed guard was stationed outside Mom's room. Not foolproof, but better than nothing. Thalia called again. I've been digging all night. This goes beyond Pascal Investments. The mayor's brother-in-law owns the property where that warehouse is located. Tax records show the holding company that leases it is connected to 3 city council members. Are you saying city officials are involved in Cordelia's drug operation? I'm saying the protection she has isn't just corporate, it's political. That's why they're willing to go so far to silence you. My stomach dropped. I have to meet them in 2 hours. No, you don't. We need to take this to federal authorities. Local police can't be trusted. There's no time, I felt panic rising. They're watching my mother. If I don't show up, listen to me. I've arranged protection, real protection. I have a friend at the FBI. He's sending agents to the hospital right now, unmarked. They'll blend in with staff. Can they get here in time? They're already en route, but you can't go to that meeting. Once you're there, you lose all leverage. I looked at Mom, now awake and watching me intently. What about the evidence? They know where my storage unit is. They'll destroy everything. Not everything. I made copies last week, remember? Stored them in my safety deposit box. We still have ammunition. A small spark of hope flared. So what do we do? Stay with your mother. My FBI contact will call you directly in the next hour. Tell him everything. They're putting together a task force as we speak. After hanging up, I explained everything to Mom. For the first time, she looked truly worried. This isn't just about money anymore, is it? She asked. No, it's bigger. Much bigger. At 9:15, a nurse entered. One I didn't recognize. She checked Mom's vitals with practiced efficiency. Doctor ordered new medication, she said, preparing an injection for Mom's IV. Something felt wrong. Which doctor? What medication? She didn't look up. Dr. Reynolds, for pain management. My mother's doctor is Dr. Lin. There is no Dr. Reynolds on her case. The woman's hands stilled. Our eyes met. In that instant, I knew. I lunged for the call button as she reached into her pocket. The security guard burst in at my shout, tackling the false nurse before she could pull out whatever she was reaching for. A syringe clattered to the floor. Within minutes, hospital security had the woman detained. She said nothing, her face expressionless as they led her away. My phone rang. Unknown number. You shouldn't have done that. Cordelia's voice slithered through the speaker. Now we do this the hard way. Federal agents are on their way. I bluffed. It's over, Cordelia. She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You think I don't have people inside federal agencies too? You have one last chance. The address I sent, 10:30. Come alone or the next person through your mother's door won't be stopped by some rent-a-cop. The line went dead. 10 minutes later, real FBI agents arrived. 2 men and a woman in plain clothes, credentials discreetly shown. The lead agent, Rivera, listened to my story without interruption, his expression growing more serious with each detail. This operation has been on our radar, he confirmed, but we didn't know about the Pascal Investments connection. It fills in missing pieces. What do we do about their 10:30 deadline, I asked. We'd like you to make the meeting. My blood went cold. You want me to walk into a trap? With full surveillance and backup, he clarified. We need to identify all players. This could be our chance to break the entire operation. And my mother? We'll have round-the-clock protection. We're moving her to a secure location now. Mom squeezed my hand. Do it, she said. End this. I looked from her to Agent Rivera. How do I know I can trust you? Cordelia said she has people in federal agencies. You don't know, he said bluntly, but consider the alternative. He was right. I had no better options. I'll do it, but I need your word. My mother's safety is the priority. You have it. They fitted me with a hidden microphone and tracking device, disguised as ordinary jewelry. Agent Rivera gave me final instructions while Mom was prepared for transport. Say as little as possible. Just listen. We need names, connections, anything they reveal. We'll be monitoring everything. I nodded, fear and determination warring inside me. Mom grabbed my hand before they wheeled her out. Remember what I taught you. Bloom women bend, but we don't break. At 10:25, I parked outside an abandoned office building on the edge of town. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. In my bag was a dummy set of evidence, enough to look convincing. I stepped out of the car, feeling utterly exposed, despite knowing agents were positioned nearby. The building entrance loomed before me, dark and foreboding. Taking a deep breath, I walked inside, head high, heart hammering against my ribs. The lobby was empty, dust-covered. A single elevator stood open, waiting. I stepped inside, the doors closed, and I began my descent into what felt like my own execution. The elevator descended smoothly, each floor ticking by on the indicator above the doors. My heart pounded so loudly I worried it might interfere with the recording device. 5 floors down, the elevator stopped. The doors opened to reveal a renovated office space. Nothing like the abandoned building above. Cordelia sat behind a glass desk, 2 men in suits standing on either side of her. One I recognized from the park confrontation. The other was new, older, with silver hair and an expensive watch that caught the light. Right on time, Cordelia said. gesturing to the chair across from her. I appreciate punctuality. I remained standing. Let's get this over with. First, your phone. She extended her hand. I placed my phone on her desk. One of the men took it, removed the battery, and placed both pieces in a metal box. Now the bag, Cordelia said. I handed over my tote containing the dummy evidence. The second man emptied it onto the desk, spreading out folders and notebooks. Is this everything? Cordelia asked, flipping through pages. Everything I have? I answered truthfully. The real evidence was safe, with Thalia and the FBI. The silver-haired man spoke for the first time. Search her. The first man approached me. I stood perfectly still as he patted me down professionally, checking for weapons or recording devices. The bracelet Agent Rivera had given me contained both a microphone and tracker, designed to evade standard detection. Clean, he announced. Silverhair nodded. Good. Now we can talk. He stepped forward. My name is Harlan. I understand you've been causing problems for our operation. I discovered financial discrepancies, I said carefully. Following them led me to your warehouse. Curious little accountant, Cordelia remarked. Always digging where you shouldn't. Harlan leaned against the desk. Do you know what we're doing at that warehouse, Miss Bloom? Manufacturing illegal pharmaceuticals. He smiled. Not illegal. Unregulated. There's a difference. People are dying from your products, I said, remembering what Thalia had discovered. People die from FDA-approved drugs too, Harlan shrugged. We provide alternatives for people who can't afford traditional medical care. Think of it as a public service. Funded by stolen money. Redirected, Cordelia corrected. Pascal Investments makes plenty. We simply allocate some of their excess profit toward more humanitarian endeavors. Harlan checked his watch. Enough chit-chat. Confirm for me that this is everything you've collected. All evidence, all copies. It is. And the journalist? Cordelia asked. Thalia Ross. We know you've been working with her. My blood chilled. She doesn't have anything. I only spoke with her once. Cordelia laughed. You're a terrible liar, Nikita. Always have been. It's why you never got promoted. She nodded to one of the men, who left the room. We'll deal with Miss Ross separately. She has nothing to do with this, I insisted. Everyone has something to do with everything, Harlan said cryptically. Now, let's discuss your mother. My hands clenched into fists. What about her? Cancer's expensive, even with insurance. He smiled benevolently. We can help with that. Specialized treatments, experimental options, in exchange for your continued silence. I've given you what you wanted. Leave her alone. Oh, we will. In fact, we'll do better than that. Cordelia opened a drawer and removed a document. This is a job offer. Executive position at one of our partner firms. Triple your previous salary. Full benefits, including exceptional medical coverage for dependents. I stared at her. You're offering me a job? After everything? We reward talent and loyalty, Nikita. You've demonstrated remarkable persistence. We could use someone like you. And if I refuse? Harlan's smile vanished. Then this conversation takes a different direction. One involving your mother's comfort during her remaining time. The threat hung in the air between us. I needed to keep them talking. Give the FBI team time to position themselves. Who else is involved? I asked. The mayor's office? City council? Surprise flickered across Cordelia's face. You have been busy. Money trails lead everywhere, I said, especially when they're sloppy. Careful, Harlan warned. Insulting the people holding your future isn't wise. You need to understand the scope of what you're up against, Cordelia added. This isn't just about me or Pascal Investments. This is about people who can erase lives with a phone call. I nodded slowly. People like you. Exactly. Now, do we have an agreement? Your silence and cooperation in exchange for your mother's well-being and your new career? The moment had come. I took a deep breath. No, Cordelia's expression hardened. Excuse me? No deal. You're not just embezzlers. You're producing counterfeit medication that's killing people. I can't be part of that. Harlan sighed dramatically. That's disappointing. I thought you were smarter. He nodded to the remaining guard. Take her upstairs. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. The guard moved toward me. This was it. The FBI should be moving in any second. But nothing happened. The guard grabbed my arm. Panic surged through me. Where was the FBI team? Wait, I said desperately. Don't you want to know about the federal investigation? Harlan paused. What federal investigation? The one that started 3 hours ago. The one that's already seized your warehouse. Cordelia laughed. Nice try. We have people watching the warehouse. Nothing's happened. I kept my expression neutral despite the surge of doubt. Had Rivera lied? Was there no backup coming? Check your phone, I challenged. Call your people. Harlan hesitated, then nodded to Cordelia. She removed her phone, dialed a number. When no one answered, she tried another, then another. No answer from the warehouse team, she said, frowning. Harlan's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Am I? Why don't you call the mayor's brother-in-law? Ask him if federal agents just executed a search warrant on his property. Real uncertainty crossed their faces now. Cordelia turned on her computer, pulling up a news site. There's nothing here about. She stopped mid-sentence, staring at the screen. I couldn't see what she was looking at, but her face drained of color. Harlan, she said quietly, look at this. He moved behind her desk, leaning over her shoulder. His expression darkened. When did this happen? He demanded. Simultaneously with our meeting, I said. The FBI has been building a case for months. I was just the final piece they needed. It was a lie. They'd only learned about it hours ago, but they didn't need to know that. You're wearing a wire, Cordelia realized, and you've just confirmed your involvement in theft, drug manufacturing, and conspiracy to commit murder, I replied. All recorded and transmitted to agents who should be arriving right about. The elevator dinged. The doors opened to reveal Agent Rivera and 4 armed agents. FBI, hands where we can see them. Everything happened at once. The guard reached for his weapon, but froze when multiple guns pointed at him. Harlan raised his hands slowly. Cordelia, however, lunged for a drawer. Gun! I shouted, diving sideways. A shot rang out, not from Cordelia, but from Agent Rivera. Cordelia screamed, clutching her shoulder as she collapsed back into her chair. Within seconds, the room was secured. Harlan and the guard were in handcuffs. Cordelia sat bleeding, hatred burning in her eyes as an agent applied pressure to her wound. You ruined everything, she hissed at me. I met her gaze steadily. No, Cordelia, you did that yourself. Agent Rivera approached me. Are you all right? I nodded, the adrenaline beginning to fade, leaving me shaky. My mother? Safe. Her transfer to the secure medical facility went smoothly. Relief washed over me. What about Thalia? Cordelia threatened her. We have agents with her too. She's fine. Actually, she's already writing the story. He smiled slightly. Said to tell you it'll be front page material. I watched as Cordelia, Harlan, and the guard were led to the elevator. Cordelia turned back one last time, her face a mask of cold fury. This isn't over, she called. Yes, I replied. It is. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse watching as Cordelia and 17 co-conspirators were sentenced. The investigation had uncovered everything. $5 million in embezzled funds, counterfeit medication that had caused 23 deaths, and corruption extending into the mayor's office and city council. Cordelia received 30 years without possibility of parole. As the judge announced her sentence, our eyes met across the courtroom. I didn't smile. I didn't nod. I simply held her gaze until officers led her away. Mom sat beside me, now in remission thanks to a clinical trial covered by my new job's insurance. After the trial, Pascal Investments had undergone a complete restructuring. The new CEO had personally asked me to return, offering a director position in their revamped compliance department, creating safeguards against anyone ever doing what Cordelia did, he'd explained. I'd accepted. Thalia's series on the case won a national award. We still meet monthly for coffee, now as friends rather than conspirators. Sometimes I wonder if I could have walked away that first night. I pretended I never saw Cordelia with the money. But then I think about the lives lost to her counterfeit medications, the careers she destroyed, the fear she wielded like a weapon. The greatest revenge wasn't what I did to Cordelia. It was what her own actions did to her when brought into the light. I didn't destroy her. Truth did. As Mom and I left the courthouse that day, a young woman approached me. She introduced herself as the daughter of someone who had died from Cordelia's counterfeit medication. Thank you, she said simply, for being brave when others weren't. I nodded, unexpected tears forming. I just did what needed to be done. She smiled. That's what bravery is. If this story moved you, please hit like and subscribe for more stories of justice prevailing against all odds. Have you ever stood up against something wrong when it would have been easier to look away? Share your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply refuse to stay silent. The 3 dots on my meeting notification changed to green. Everyone was already connected, except I wasn't supposed to be on this call at all. The system glitch had added me automatically when Roger scheduled it, a quirk in our outdated calendar software that occasionally duplicated invites to previous attendees. Let's get straight to the point. Roger's voice filtered through my earbuds. We fire her tomorrow. Claim performance issues. The board is getting antsy about those quarterly projections. Astrid's been asking too many questions, Viveka added, her usual smooth tone edged with irritation. Last week, she came to me wanting explanation about the Anderson account discrepancies. I froze, mouse hovering mid-click over a spreadsheet, my name in their mouths, my termination being planned while I sat 2 floors below them, working late as usual. Legal's prepared everything, said Hugh from HR. Clean exit, generous severance if she signs immediately. If not, we emphasize the performance concerns, make it clear fighting this would be unwise for her future prospects. And if she keeps pushing about the numbers, ask someone I couldn't identify. She won't, Roger replied. We'll call her upstairs at 9 a.m. sharp. Security will be standing by. Standard protocol, account access terminated the moment she enters the meeting room, belongings packed while she's upstairs. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept completely silent on the call. 3 years of dedication to this investment firm, promoted twice, late nights, missed weekends, all those client relationships I'd carefully cultivated, and now, disposable, because I'd noticed money moving where it shouldn't be. We need her access badge deactivated immediately after, Viveka continued. She knows too much about our internal systems. That brings me to another point, Roger added. We'll need to restructure how the quarterly reporting works. No one person should have visibility across all the portfolios, like Astrid does. It creates unnecessary complications. I disconnected, unable to listen further. They were all still in that 7th floor conference room, which meant the HR suite on 3 would be empty, and I needed what was in there. The emergency stairwell was silent as I descended. My hand trembled slightly, but my mind remained crystalline clear. 3 flights down, I paused at the door marked 3 and took a deep breath. I had maybe 20 minutes before their meeting concluded. The HR department had 2 entrances, the main glass doors everyone used, and a rarely accessed back entrance near the supply area. My regular badge wouldn't work for HR after hours, but 6 months ago, during a system crash, I'd watched the tech support manager override the lock with an administrative code. 5 digits. I remembered them perfectly. Green light. The door clicked open. The darkened HR suite felt forbidden, the hushed atmosphere charged with risk. I navigated between cubicles by memory, heading for Hugh's office. His assistant Marvin was notoriously careless with security. When I'd helped him with a system issue last month, he'd written his password on a scrap of paper, then tucked it beneath his desk calendar. Sure enough, Summerlab 2023. Within minutes, I accessed their secure drive. My fingers flew across the keyboard, searching for any communications about me, about the Anderson account, about the quarterly numbers that wouldn't add up for anyone looking closely. I found them, internal messages discussing how to handle the situation, meeting notes about necessary adjustments to client accounts, attachments with dual versions of financial reports. I forwarded everything to my personal email and to a backup address I'd created when I first noticed the discrepancies. The timestamps showed clearly who had altered what, when, and how. My suspicions confirmed in black and white. A noise from the hallway jolted me. I logged out, restored everything to its previous state, and slipped toward the back exit. Through the small window in the door, I glimpsed the elevator light illuminating. Someone coming to this floor. I eased through the door and took the stairs down to the parking garage, my footsteps echoing in the concrete stairwell. My boss's luxury sedan still occupied his premium spot. The termination planning session continued above me. I drove home with windows down despite the autumn chill, needing the cold air to think clearly. One call remained, to Imani, the former finance director who'd left the company last year amid unclear circumstances. The woman who'd trained me, who'd always emphasized integrity in our industry. The woman who now worked directly with our largest investor. Meet me tonight, I said when she answered. I need your expertise. Before sunrise, we'd traced every manipulation, every hidden transfer. Imani's expression hardened as we followed the money trail. This isn't creative accounting, she said. This is something far worse. I slept briefly before returning to the office, dressed in my most confident outfit. At 8:50 a.m., I stepped off the elevator, nodding to coworkers. Roger looked startled to see me, phone pressed to his ear, his face draining of color mid-sentence. Meeting canceled, he snapped to Viveka, who approached with a folder. Situations changed. An all-staff email arrived at 9:15. Our largest investor had requested an emergency audit, effective immediately. External personnel would be arriving within the hour. Before we continue further, thank you for joining me on this intense journey. If my story has captured your attention so far, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything, and there's much more to come as I reveal exactly how I turned the tables on those who tried to destroy my career. Drop a comment about what you would have done in my position. I read every single one. My name is Astrid Morales, and until yesterday, I was senior financial analyst at one of Boston's most prestigious investment management firms. My colleagues described me as meticulous, reserved, the quiet one who listened more than she spoke, the person who remembered every detail from meetings months earlier, the one who could identify patterns across thousands of entries in financial reports. I hadn't planned on becoming a whistleblower. Growing up with immigrant parents who worked endless hours in their small grocery store had taught me to keep my head down, work hard, and be grateful for opportunities. My father's favorite phrase, never make waves at work, Astrid, the ocean always wins. But he'd also taught me something else. Integrity isn't negotiable. I joined the firm after completing my master's in financial analysis. Starting in client relations, I moved to portfolio management, then to internal compliance review. Each promotion revealed more of how the company operated, more of the complex machinery behind the impressive returns we promised clients. The discrepancies started appearing 8 months ago. Subtle at first, timing differences between transactions, inconsistent fee structures across similar accounts. Nothing definitively wrong, just odd. Then came the Anderson account, a $50 million portfolio, suddenly showing activity that contradicted the client's stated investment strategy. I flagged it to Roger. Interesting catch, he said, taking my analysis. I'll review this with the executive team. A week later, the numbers had been adjusted. Problem solved, apparently. Except the underlying transactions remained unchanged. Only the reporting had shifted. I approached Viveka next, our chief operating officer. These patterns suggest systematic issues, I explained, showing her spreadsheets tracking similar discrepancies across multiple accounts. Financial systems are complex, she replied, not really looking at my evidence. Sometimes apparent issues are just artifacts of how data flows between platforms. Let's not create problems where none exist, Astrid. But they did exist. The more I looked, the more I found. Client funds being temporarily diverted before major reporting periods. Returns inflated through accounting tricks. Small amounts from multiple accounts pooled for unauthorized investments, then redistributed before clients would notice. 3 weeks ago, I documented everything and prepared a comprehensive report for the compliance committee. The day before my scheduled presentation, Roger announced a reorganization of the compliance function. My presentation was postponed indefinitely. That should have been my warning. Now, as external auditors swarmed our floor and Roger paced nervously between meetings, I maintained a facade of confused concern. What's happening? I asked a colleague. Why are these people from Sanderson Investments here? No one knows, he whispered, but management looks terrified. By noon, more visitors arrived. Not accountants this time, federal agents. They set up in our largest conference room, calling executives in, one by one. Roger spotted me watching from my desk. He stormed over, leaning close. What did you do? He hissed, eyes wild with panic. I looked up from my computer, expression neutral. I'm just doing my job, Roger. Exactly what I've always done. His face contorted. You have no idea what you've started. When this is over, a federal agent interrupted. Mr. Westfield, we're ready for you now? As Roger walked away, Viveka caught my eye from across the office. The realization dawning on her face would have been satisfying if the stakes weren't so serious. This wasn't just about my job anymore. This was about every client whose trust had been betrayed, every investor misled by falsified returns. My phone buzzed with a text from Amani. Sanderson executives want to meet you privately. Conference room B, 15 minutes. My hands trembled slightly as I gathered my notes. The path ahead would be difficult. Whistleblowers rarely emerged unscathed, regardless of their justification. As I walked toward the meeting, Roger emerged from his interrogation, face ashen. He grabbed my arm, pulling me aside. "You'll regret this," he whispered. "You think you're some kind of hero? You've destroyed years of work. People will lose everything because you couldn't mind your own business." I removed his hand from my arm. People were already losing everything, Roger. Their retirement funds, their children's college savings, their financial security. "You understand nothing about how this industry really works," he snarled. "That's where you're wrong," I replied. "I understand exactly how it's supposed to work, and I understand exactly what you did." As I turned to walk away, he called after me, "This isn't over, Astrid. You have no idea what's coming for you." I paused, looking back at the man who had planned to discard me like yesterday's newspaper. "Neither do you, Roger," I said quietly. "Neither do you." The door to conference room B loomed ahead. Inside waited representatives from our largest investor, federal investigators, and a future I couldn't predict. But one thing was certain: I wasn't the one who should be afraid. The door to conference room B felt heavier than usual. Inside, 5 people waited, 3 in expensive suits I didn't recognize, plus Imani and a woman with a federal agent badge displayed on her blazer. "Miss Morales," said the oldest of the suited individuals, standing to greet me. "I'm Tanner Sanderson. These are my colleagues, Lena and Philip. We appreciate you meeting with us during what must be an extraordinarily difficult day." Tanner Sanderson, the founding partner of Sanderson Investments, our largest client with over $3 billion in managed assets, the man whose name graced the lobby of our building, and whose reputation in financial circles was legendary. "I wish we were meeting under different circumstances," I said, taking the offered seat. "Agent Carlisle has briefed us on some troubling activities," Tanner continued, nodding toward the federal agent, "but Imani suggested you might provide greater context." I placed my laptop on the table. I've been tracking irregularities for approximately 8 months. At first, I believed they were system errors or oversights. By month 3, the pattern became unmistakable. For the next hour, I walked them through everything: the diverted funds, the manipulated reports, the careful shell game that had been played with their money. I showed them the trails I'd discovered and the documentation I'd secretly compiled. "Why didn't you come to us directly?" Lena asked. She was younger than the others, sharp-eyed with a precision to her questions that reminded me of myself. "Until yesterday, I still believed internal channels might resolve this," I admitted. "I tried multiple times. When I overheard them planning my termination specifically to prevent further inquiry, I realized the problem went higher than I'd initially thought." Agent Carlisle leaned forward. "You understand you're making serious allegations against executives of this firm. The evidence suggests financial crimes that could carry significant penalties." "I understand, and you should also understand," Philip added, his voice gentler than his colleagues, "that whistleblowers often face challenging professional futures, even when they're clearly in the right." The weight of what I'd done settled more heavily on my shoulders. "Some things matter more than career advancement," I said quietly. Tanner studied me for a long moment. "Imani spoke highly of your integrity. Now I see why." He turned to Agent Carlisle. "We'll cooperate fully with your investigation. In the meantime, we'll need to secure our assets currently under management here." The meeting concluded with arrangements for me to provide formal statements in the coming days. As we stood to leave, Imani lingered behind with me. "You did the right thing," she said once we were alone. "But Roger has powerful friends. This won't be a simple resolution." "I know, but what choice did I have?" She squeezed my shoulder. "None. That's why they targeted you. They knew you wouldn't look away." The office had transformed in just a few hours. Federal agents occupied several conference rooms. Employees huddled in corners, whispering nervously. A team from IT worked under supervision, securing systems and restricting access to financial platforms. I returned to my desk to find Viveka waiting. Her usual polished composure had cracked, revealing something harder beneath. "You think you've won," she said, voice low, "but you have no idea what forces you've set in motion. These people," she gestured toward the federal agents, "will be gone in a week. We'll still be here. The industry will still be here. And everyone will know exactly what you did." "What I did? I didn't steal from clients. No, you just betrayed everyone who works here. Do you think the firm survives this? Do you think all these people keep their jobs when you've painted targets on our backs?" Her words landed like blows. I hadn't considered the broader implications for my colleagues. many of whom knew nothing about the manipulation happening at higher levels. The people responsible should be held accountable, I said, less confidently. Such a simplistic view. Viveka leaned closer. The market doesn't reward heroes, Astrid. It rewards winners. Remember that when you're trying to find your next position. She straightened, smoothing her skirt. Oh, and Roger asked me to deliver a message. Check your personal accounts. That's all he said. She walked away, leaving me cold despite the overheated office air. My phone was already showing multiple notifications. Hands shaking, I opened my banking app. My accounts showed 0 balances, completely emptied. My investment accounts displayed error messages. My credit score alert showed a catastrophic 200-point drop overnight. They had anticipated me. Somehow, they had prepared for this possibility. I called my bank immediately, stepping into an empty meeting room for privacy. This is unauthorized activity. I explained to the customer service representative. I didn't transfer these funds. I understand your concern, Miss Morales, but these transactions were authorized using your security credentials and verification codes. They appear to be legitimate transfers to an offshore investment account under your name. My stomach dropped. I never opened any offshore account. The documentation we received indicates otherwise. There's a signature matching yours on file, dated 3 months ago. 3 months ago, exactly when I'd first brought my concerns to Roger. This is fraud, I insisted. I need these transactions reversed. I'm afraid we'll need to investigate before taking any action. That typically takes 30 to 90 days, during which the funds will remain unavailable. Every aspect of my financial life had been weaponized against me. By the time I ended the call, 2 more notifications had appeared. My apartment building's management portal showed an eviction notice for illegal activity, and my health insurance displayed a termination for non-payment. They weren't just firing me, they were erasing me. I leaned against the wall, struggling to breathe properly. This was the moment they had planned for, my complete destruction, when I became a threat. They had created a perfect trap, making it appear I'd been stealing the very funds I was reporting missing. When Agent Carlyle found me there 10 minutes later, I'd managed to regain some composure. We need to talk, she said, closing the door. Your colleagues are painting an interesting picture. According to them, you've been manipulating reports to hide your own unauthorized activities. That's not true. They have evidence suggesting you created false documentation to cover embezzlement. They claim you realized you were about to be discovered and are attempting to shift blame. They manufactured that evidence. I can prove the timeline. With what? The copies you sent yourself last night, after you gained unauthorized access to HR systems? Her expression softened slightly. Miss Morales, I've seen this before. Corporations protect themselves. They create paper trails, build narratives. By the time we untangle everything, lives are ruined. So you believe them. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. I believe evidence. Right now, both sides have compelling stories. We'll investigate thoroughly. She handed me her card. Don't leave town, and I'd suggest getting legal representation immediately. When she left, I remained frozen in place. They had prepared so thoroughly, anticipated my every move. While I'd been tracking financial discrepancies, they'd been building a case against me, creating a perfect counter-narrative. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Car park level B, 10 minutes. Come alone if you want help. A friend. Trust seemed dangerous now, but options were rapidly disappearing. I gathered my belongings, ignoring the stares of colleagues as I walked through the main office. Many averted their eyes. I was already toxic, already condemned. The elevator descended to the parking garage. Each floor passing felt like counting down to some inevitable conclusion. The concrete structure was dimly lit and eerily quiet at midday. I clutched my phone, prepared to call for help if necessary. A figure emerged from behind a support column. Astrid. I nearly collapsed with relief. Darius had worked in our legal department until 6 months ago, when he'd suddenly resigned. Office rumors suggested a disagreement with executive leadership. I heard what's happening, he said, glancing toward the elevator. They're setting you up exactly like they did me. The difference is, I caved under pressure. What do you mean? When I found irregularities in client contracts last year, they created evidence suggesting I'd been the one altering terms. They gave me a choice. Resign quietly with a reference or face prosecution. I chose the easy path. His expression hardened. I've regretted it every day since. Why are you helping me now? Because you did what I couldn't. But you need to understand, they're not just trying to discredit you professionally. They want to destroy you completely. They've already emptied my accounts, tanked my credit, started eviction proceedings. That's just the beginning. Roger has connections throughout the industry, in regulatory bodies, even in some media outlets. The narrative they're building will make you unemployable anywhere in finance. I leaned against a concrete pillar, the cool surface grounding me. So what do? Run? No. You fight, but not the way they expect. He handed me a thumb drive. This contains communications from when they targeted me. It won't save you alone, but it establishes a pattern of behavior. Why didn't you use this yourself? Darius smiled bitterly. Because I signed their agreement. Legally, I can't disclose anything about the firm without facing consequences. You haven't signed anything yet. They've already made me look guilty. Of course they have. That's why you need to. He stopped abruptly, looking past me. Someone's coming. Take this and contact me through the email address inside. Don't trust anyone else in the firm. He disappeared between parked cars as footsteps approached from behind. Astrid, Viveka's voice echoed in the garage. What are you doing down here alone? I slipped the thumb drive into my pocket, turning to face her with as neutral an expression as I could manage. Just getting some air. It's been an overwhelming day. She smiled, the expression never reaching her eyes. Indeed, the board has called an emergency meeting. They'd like you to attend to share your concerns. The way she emphasized that last word made it clear what kind of meeting this would be. Not an opportunity to be heard. A trap designed to complete my professional execution. Of course, I replied, matching her false smile. I have plenty to share. The board meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. in our most imposing conference room, the Fortress, as employees called it. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, while the massive oak table and high-backed leather chairs were designed to intimidate anyone sitting at the lower end. I arrived 5 minutes early to find Roger, Viveka, and 6 board members already seated. No federal agents, no representatives from Sanderson Investments, just me facing the collective power of the firm's leadership. Astrid, Roger greeted me with artificial warmth. Thank you for joining us during this difficult time. The board wanted to hear directly from you about these allegations. I took the sole empty chair at the far end of the table. The distance was deliberate, physically separating me from their circle of power. Before we begin, said Eleanor, the board chairwoman, we want to emphasize that this is an informal discussion. We're simply trying to understand the situation fully. Of course, I replied, opening my laptop. That won't be necessary, Viveka interjected. This isn't a presentation, just a conversation. I closed the laptop but kept it in front of me. I'm happy to converse. Eleanor leaned forward. Astrid, we've received concerning information about your activities over the past several months. Financial discrepancies that appear to trace back to your access credentials. Interesting timing, I observed. These concerns emerge only after I report fraud at executive levels. Roger's smile tightened. No one has confirmed any fraud. What we have confirmed is unauthorized access to secured systems last night, from your login, because I discovered you were planning to terminate me to prevent me from revealing what I'd found. The board members exchanged glances. I recognized their expressions. They'd already decided. This wasn't an investigation. It was theater. We have documentation, Viveka said, sliding folders to each board member, showing systematic manipulation of client accounts. The activity originated from Astrid's workstation. Using her credentials, the boardroom felt suddenly airless as they reviewed pages of what appeared to be damning evidence against me. This is fabricated, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. You created this after I reported the actual fraud. That's a serious accusation, Eleanor replied. Do you have evidence supporting your version? I've provided everything to federal investigators and Sanderson Investments. Convenient, Roger smirked. Claims without proof. For the next hour, they took turns dismantling my character and credibility. They produced altered emails making it appear I'd discussed moving client funds. They showed transactions initiated under my login. They even presented a psychological evaluation that I'd never undergone, suggesting I was unstable and vindictive after being passed over for promotion. We're disappointed, Astrid, Eleanor concluded. Your work had been exemplary until this breakdown. The board has unanimously voted to terminate your employment effective immediately. We won't be pursuing criminal charges, Roger added magnanimously, provided you sign our separation agreement. It includes confidentiality provisions and a non-disparagement clause. Viveka slid a thick document toward me. Standard terms. You'll surrender any claims against the firm and refrain from discussing internal matters. In exchange, we'll provide neutral references and 6 weeks severance. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. This was their endgame. Silence me, discredit me, and move on. If I refused, they'd unleash their fabricated evidence in a criminal complaint. I reached for the document, flipping through pages of legal jargon designed to bury me. "You need me to sign this today?" I asked, voice deliberately small. Roger couldn't hide his satisfaction. "The offer expires at close of business. Given your current financial situation, which we understand has become rather precarious, I'd suggest careful consideration." His knowledge of my emptied bank accounts confirmed his involvement. The trap had been masterfully executed. "May I have a moment to review it?" "Of course," Eleanor said. "We'll give you some privacy." The board members filed out, leaving me alone in the fortress. Through the glass walls, I could see them gathered in the hallway, already celebrating their victory. Roger laughed at something Viveka said, patting her shoulder with the casual confidence of someone who never loses. My phone buzzed with a text from Imani. "In position, 4th floor conference room." I exhaled slowly. The pieces were aligning. When the board returned 15 minutes later, I had the agreement in front of me, pen in hand. "I have one question," I said as they settled back into their chairs. "This clause about all copies of company information, that includes anything I might have sent to personal accounts?" "Yes," Viveka confirmed eagerly. "All copies, all formats, everywhere." I nodded thoughtfully. "And if I sign, the company considers the matter closed? No further action against me?" "Provided you comply fully," Eleanor said. "We have no desire for protracted conflicts." "I understand." I looked down at the signature page, pen hovering above the line. Roger leaned forward, unable to hide his anticipation. This was his moment of triumph, watching me surrender. I set the pen down. "I'm afraid I can't sign this." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Roger's expression hardened. "That would be unwise, Astrid. Extremely unwise." "Perhaps," I agreed, "but I've learned something valuable from all of you. Always know your leverage points." I stood, gathering my belongings calmly. "While you've been busy constructing your narrative against me, I've been quite occupied myself. Right now, there's another meeting happening in this building. 4th floor conference room." Confusion flickered across their faces. "What meeting?" Viveka demanded. "Sanderson Investments isn't just meeting with federal investigators," I explained. "They're meeting with their legal team, the State Financial Regulatory Board, and representatives from your other 6 largest client organizations." Roger stood abruptly. "What have you done?" When I realized what was happening 8 months ago, I didn't just document the fraud. I created a comprehensive analysis of exactly which clients were affected and by how much. I traced every manipulation, every false report, every diverted fund, not as an employee, but as an independent financial analyst. Eleanor's face paled. "You had no authorization." "I didn't need authorization. Imani hired me personally as a consultant to Sanderson Investments 3 months ago. Everything I've analyzed was at their request, through proper channels, with signed agreements." The revelation landed like a thunderbolt. While they thought I was working late on company projects, I had been methodically building a parallel investigation with the firm's largest client, one beyond their reach to suppress. "That's not possible," Roger sputtered. "You can't work for a client while employed here. It violates your contract." I pulled a document from my bag. "My contract prohibits outside employment without disclosure and approval. 3 months ago, I submitted this formal disclosure. You signed it, Roger. You were distracted during the Wilson merger negotiations, but here's your signature approving my financial analysis consulting project." His face contorted as he recognized his own signature on the paper, a document he'd carelessly authorized among dozens during that hectic week. "Everything I've done has been by the book," I continued. "Every analysis, every investigation, all properly documented with timestamps, witnesses, and authorization. Meanwhile, your elaborate setup against me required breaking numerous laws. No one will believe you over us," Viveka insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. "That's why I never acted alone. Darius provided evidence of your previous pattern with him. 3 other former employees came forward with similar experiences. And Imani, who you all believed was simply consulting for Sanderson, has actually been building their internal investigation unit. The position they offered me last year that I declined, she accepted it. I walked to the door, turning back one final time. The offshore account where my money was transferred. It's frozen now. The trail leads directly back to your personal server, Roger. Not very sophisticated for someone so concerned about people looking too closely at the numbers. The boardroom erupted into chaos behind me as I walked out. Eleanor was already on her phone, likely calling their outside counsel. Roger shouted accusations, while Viveka attempted to access systems from her tablet, systems that had already been locked by federal authorities. In the fourth-floor conference room, Imani greeted me with a tight hug. "It's done," she said. "All 8 major clients have pulled their investments pending investigation. The regulators have frozen the firm's trading capabilities." Tanner Sanderson approached, extending his hand. "Miss Morales, your analysis was impeccable. We've been concerned about irregularities for some time but couldn't pinpoint their source. Your documentation provided exactly what we needed." "What happens now?" I asked. "For them? Years of investigations, lawsuits, and likely criminal charges," said Agent Carlyle, joining our conversation. "For you? That depends." "On what?" "On whether you'll accept our offer," Tanner replied. "Sanderson Investments needs someone with your skills and integrity to head our new compliance division. Someone who values truth over personal gain. A considerable salary increase would accompany the position," Imani added with a smile, "along with guaranteed autonomy to build the department as you see fit." I thought of Roger's face when he realized I'd outmaneuvered him, not through deception, but through meticulous adherence to rules he thought he could bend at will. "I'd be honored," I replied. 3 months later, the former executives of my old firm were indicted on 37 counts of financial fraud. I testified at preliminary hearings, presenting the evidence I'd gathered, both as their employee and as Sanderson's consultant. My bank accounts were restored. The fabricated evidence against me dismantled by federal forensic accountants. The company that had tried to destroy me now existed only in court filings and cautionary tales told at industry conferences. The key had never been playing their game. It had been creating my own board entirely. If you've made it this far in my story, I want to thank you for listening. Life doesn't always give us clean victories against those who abuse power, but sometimes preparation meets opportunity in just the right way. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life accounts of corporate justice. What would you have done in my situation? Leave a comment below. I read every one and would love to hear your thoughts on standing up to workplace corruption. Remember, your greatest power often lies in staying true to your principles, even when it seems the whole system is against you.